Alright. So now that's about it. Let's just get started. Now, who was King Tut? Well, King Tut was a boy ruler, and he was a ruler of Egypt until he died when he was like 18 or 19 years old, before he was 20, by the way. And he was a 3,000-year-old mummy, and actually he's an awesome guy. Also, actually just awesome enough to talk about, but in this case a bit tip of the world. But let's just say that there are some things about King Tut that we'll never know, which is actually true. Now, King Tut is as good as his name says he was. He was called King Tut as an abbreviation of King Tutankhamun! Tutankhamun! Yes, but not because of that. The abbreviation was because Tutankhamun was too long, but his original name wasn't Tutankhamun, it was actually Tutankhamun. Why? Well, let me further explain. Before we even knew about the world, we always thought that there was something out there from like outer reaches. Now let's just say this is the Earth. This ball represents the Earth. And it's spinning at a constant speed. But then everyone thought that there was an outside force that made it spin, that made day and night. Day, night. Get it? And it's more of a moon, but who cares? And then other things sort of happened. And what did we think of these outer terrestrial forces as? Gods. And yes, I do know Iron Man is not a god. But in other cases, he was. In modern day Egypt, he would have been called a god. He would have been called a god in modern day Egypt. And that would have been awesome, except for the part that he would not be told as Egyptian. But in other cases, there are some forms when anyone could become a god. Anyone could become a god. Yeah, this helmet is so good and bad at the same time. But as long as we've been talking about him for our whole lives, there has been a talk of mummies, Egyptians, and some sort of curses, which is a bit bad. And as we've known for our whole lives, there are a few forces that influence the world of us, of ours. And we've been as good as ever since we've learned that there were no gods in the world. But King Tutankhamun, or should I say Tutankhamun, Prince Tutankhamun, was born Tutankhamun. And talking of Tutankhamun, and speaking of his name, it was because it was this god that his father believed in, and he thought he was the only god to be worshipped, and that name is a guy named Akhon, who turns out not to be a god, just a son. Bad idea, guy. And that made him unpopular with everyone in his kingdom. Finally, he died. Everyone decided on Ammon, especially King Tut. And basically, everything went back to normal. As all that happened, there are a few things that I should know before this episode ends. Firstly, King Tutankhamun was not the actual ruler. He was just a pre-ruler. Basically, that he was not going to be the original ruler. Where he was, the ruler was actually just a few advisors, who eventually become the next pharaohs when King Tut didn't get a heir. For that matter. And talking about an heir, there's not much we can talk about when we're talking about heirs. King Tutankhamun was at the most good king, but then his mysterious death happened, and that mysterious death, we don't know how he died. And then in 1922, our culture started finding and excavating for Tutankhamun. And when Tutankhamun was discovered after 3,000 years of abandonment, literal and metaphorically, there's not much to talk about. But then they found out gold and stuff, and now they're like, hell, what in the world is all this? And started getting all this stuff. Firstly, they sent all of that to the museum, and others when trying to just sold them to the museums at a way higher price than they would normally be to get rich quick. But in other cases, that was not so efficient for Carter. Basically, he was not in a good mood about it. Howard Carter was an awesome guy. And he was more awesome when and rich when he discovered Tutankhamun. But more than less, that's how much we know about King Tutankhamun. But since Howard Carter discovered, but then like this story came like there's a curse that King Tut will have revenge on his diggers. How Lord Carfanon has died from something that everyone claims to be a curse, and they're like, Howard Carter will be the next. No, but it turns out Howard Carter didn't die of a curse. He just died of natural disease, natural causes. No, there's no curse. Oh, so bad. By the way, and by the way, that is the end of this episode. So what do we learn here about who is King Tutankhamun and how he might have died? The eye, which is actually murder, which is actually disproven, and maybe because of a lot of malaria and stuff. But anyway, this is the end of this episode. So if you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you in the next episode. Shine out and peace. Also, want to learn more about Tutankhamun? Read this National Geographic.